Hello viewers, welcome back to our channel Low Point. This is Anisha Babu. In a previous session, we covered as long as the wife and children of the deceased are alive, it is they who will inherit the property of the deceased, irrespective of whether the deceased person has any blood relatives alive or not. In today's session, we'll consider situations where there are no children alive, but the deceased person has blood relatives and or wife. We have a Supreme Court of India's advocate on record, Mrs. Praseena Elizabeth Joseph, to discuss various scenarios in Christian succession. So let's watch.
Law has classified blood relationships into different degrees. The first degree consists of father, mother and siblings. Second degree consists of grandparents. Third degree consists of great-grandparents, uncles, aunts, nephews and nieces. Please note that in our examples, we are assuming the husband as deceased. The same principles shall apply if the deceased is wife. Because just like a wife has rights in her deceased husband's property, a husband also has same rights in his deceased wife's property if she dies without leaving behind a will. Now let us look at the chart to understand Indian Succession Act better.
This chart explains different possibilities of succession based on who is alive when the deceased person died without leaving behind a will. First scenario is where wife, father, mother and siblings of deceased are alive. In this case, half of the property of the deceased shall belong to the wife and the other half shall go to his father. None of the others will get anything. Second scenario is where the deceased person is survived by his wife only and no kindred. The entire property of the deceased shall belong to his wife. Third scenario is where the wife is not alive but father, mother and siblings of the deceased are alive. In this case, father Sabu will get 100% of the property and none of the others will get anything. Fourth scenario is at the time of the death of the deceased, only wife, mother and siblings of the deceased are alive. In this case, half of the property of the deceased shall belong to the wife and the other half shall go to his mother and siblings in equal shares. Fifth scenario is where deceased is survived by only mother and siblings of deceased. Then entire property of the deceased will go to his mother and siblings in equal shares. In this case, brother Thomas and sister Anne along with mother Shirley, totaling 3 members surviving in the first degree, so they will share 1/3 each. Sixth scenario is where the deceased person is survived by his mother only and no siblings. The entire property of the deceased shall belong to his mother. Seventh scenario is where the deceased person is survived by his siblings only. The entire property of the deceased be divided equally between his brothers and sisters in equal shares. Eighth scenario is where the deceased person is survived by his mother Shirley and sister Anne, whereas brother Thomas expired. Here, mother gets 1/3, sister Anne gets 1/3, and children of the expired brother also gets 1/3 share. Ninth scenario is where the deceased person is survived by his mother Shirley and brother Thomas, whereas sister Anne expired. Here, mother gets 1/3 share, brother Thomas gets 1/3 share, and children of Anne also gets 1/3 share. Tenth scenario is when no one is alive in the first degree and only grandparents and nephews and nieces are alive. Then it is only the grandparents who will have right to the property of the deceased because they fall in the second degree and nephews and nieces won't have any claim over the property of the deceased as they fall in the third degree. When the deceased person is survived by his great grandparents, uncles, aunts, nephews, and nieces, all of them being in the third degree will take equal shares. In our case, there are great grandmother, great grandfather, Uncle Simon, Aunt Daisy, one nephew, three nieces, so total 8 members in third degree of relationship. As such, each one will get 1/8 share. When the deceased person is survived by only nephews and nieces in the third degree of relationship, they will inherit the property in equal shares. In our example, as there are 3 nieces and 1 nephew, each one will get 1/4 share. If there are no spouse, lineal descendants, and kindred to the deceased, then the property of the deceased will go to state.
Now let us sum up the interstate succession laws of Indian Christians. If deceased is survived by wife and lineal descendants, wife is entitled to receive 1/3 share of deceased husband's property and remaining 2/3 will be equally divided between the lineal descendants. If deceased is survived by wife and kindred, wife will receive half share of the deceased husband's property and remaining half will be equally divided between the kindred. If deceased is survived only by wife, wife will get full share. If deceased is survived only by lineal descendants, they will get full share. If deceased is survived only by kindred, they will get full share. If no spouse, lineal descendants or kindred, property of the deceased will go to government. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.